Do you feel a growing tension in your relationship, as if you're speaking different languages despite sharing the same space? What if the wisdom of Stoicism could offer the clarity you need to reconnect? Conflict and disconnection, silent but potent forces that erode the foundations of even the strongest relationships. These moments, when words fail and emotions overwhelm, leave us feeling isolated, even while sitting across from someone we deeply care about. Unresolved misunderstandings can turn affection into resentment, love into frustration. The weight of these moments lingers, filling the air with an unspoken question: where did we lose each other? If you've ever felt this, you're not alone. And perhaps the answer isn't about fixing the other person. It's about reshaping the lens through which you view the relationship. Enter Stoicism, a timeless philosophy that has guided people for over 2 millennia, teaching resilience, clarity, and harmony in the face of life's storms. At its core, Stoicism encourages us to understand what we can control, let go of what we can't, and align our actions with reason and virtue. These principles don't just apply to the self, they can breathe new life into our relationships. But how can a philosophy from ancient Greece and Rome possibly address the complexities of modern love? Is it truly possible to untangle the threads of frustration, miscommunication, and hurt using ideas rooted in rationality and emotional discipline? In this video, we'll explore 5 signs that your relationship might be in trouble and uncover practical Stoic-inspired solutions to reconnect. If you're ready to rediscover the bond you once had, stay tuned, because the wisdom of the Stoics might just hold the key. Emotional outbursts are taking over. Emotional reactivity can silently poison the foundation of any relationship. When unchecked, our emotions dictate our words and actions, often escalating conflicts instead of resolving them. Trust and communication, 2 pillars of a healthy relationship, can crumble under the weight of unchecked emotional outbursts. If you've ever found yourself saying something hurtful in a moment of anger only to regret it later, you're not alone. Imagine a couple sitting across from each other at dinner, both simmering with frustration from a disagreement earlier in the day. The words exchanged are sharp and cutting, not because they mean to hurt, but because emotions have hijacked the conversation. One angry comment leads to another, and before they know it, they're not just arguing about the original issue, but dredging up past grievances, each one louder and more defensive than the last. This is what happens when emotional reactivity takes the reins. Emotional reactivity is a common challenge in relationships. It's the automatic knee-jerk response to a perceived threat or irritation, a reflex that can sabotage our best intentions. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, were keenly aware of this. Epictetus famously said, "We are disturbed not by things, but by the view which we take of them." This simple yet profound quote encapsulates the essence of Stoic emotional regulation. In Stoicism, emotional regulation isn't about suppressing emotions, but about mastering them. It's about recognizing that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control our responses. The first step towards this is pausing before reacting. Instead of reacting immediately to an emotional trigger, pause, breathe. This brief moment gives you the chance to distance yourself from the initial impulse and consider your response more rationally. Journaling is another practical Stoic technique. By writing down our emotions, we gain insight into their origin and the thought patterns that drive them. As Marcus Aurelius said, "Observe what happens within you, not just what happens around you." Journaling allows us to trace the path of our emotions, understand their triggers, and realize that the situations that provoke them aren't as disastrous as they seem in the heat of the moment. Reframing triggers is a Stoic practice that involves challenging our automatic thoughts and interpretations. When someone says or does something that triggers a negative emotional response, instead of assuming the worst, ask yourself, what else could this mean? This shift in perspective can prevent a small misunderstanding from escalating into a full-blown argument. For instance, if your partner forgets an important event, instead of assuming they don't care, reframe it by considering they might be stressed or overwhelmed. This simple change in perspective can diffuse the emotional charge. Consider the transformation of Sarah and John. They'd been together for 5 years, yet they were constantly arguing. Every small disagreement would lead to shouting matches that lasted for days. When Sarah stumbled upon the Stoic principles of emotional regulation, she suggested they try journaling. At first, John was skeptical, but Sarah began to write down her emotional responses each day and then asked herself what was truly bothering her. It didn't take long for her to realize that many of her triggers stemmed from her own insecurities rather than any intentional slight from John. John, inspired by Sarah's progress, decided to try pausing before reacting. Instead of immediately responding to Sarah's frustration with his own, he would take a deep breath and consider his words. This practice alone was transformative. It created space for both of them to address issues calmly and rationally. The journaling helped them understand each other's feelings better, leading to more empathetic and productive conversations. Their relationship improved dramatically. They no longer let small issues fester into major conflicts. They began to see emotional outbursts not as the norm, but as red flags that required a Stoic-inspired pause, reflection, and a more compassionate response. Their story is a testament to the power of Stoic principles in emotional regulation, demonstrating that relationships don't have to be a battleground of unchecked emotions. By applying these Stoic principles, Sarah and John learned to regulate their emotions, leading to a more harmonious relationship. This transformation didn't happen overnight, but through consistent practice, pausing before reacting, journaling, and reframing their emotional triggers. Their story is a powerful reminder that we have the power to change the dynamics of our relationships, to turn emotional reactivity into resilience, and to build trust through thoughtful, Stoic-inspired communication. Communication feels like a battlefield. Communication can often feel like a battlefield, with blame, defensiveness, and misunderstandings flying back and forth, leaving both parties feeling hurt and disconnected. These patterns of destructive communication, like blame shifting, criticism, and defensiveness, create an atmosphere of tension that is hard to escape. What starts as a minor disagreement can quickly escalate into a full-blown argument, each side feeling more and more entrenched in their position. Blame and defensiveness are two of the most common patterns in destructive communication. Blame shifts the responsibility for problems entirely onto the other person, refusing to accept any role in the conflict. This often leads to a cycle of attack and defense, where neither party feels heard or understood. Defensiveness, on the other hand, involves protecting oneself by denying any fault and counterattacking. Both behaviors build emotional barriers, making true communication impossible. The Stoic approach offers a way out of this destructive cycle. One of the foundational Stoic principles is the importance of mindfulness, particularly mindful listening. According to the Stoics, particularly Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, we should engage in conversations not with the intention of proving our point, but with the goal of truly understanding the other person's perspective. As Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This quote emphasizes the Stoic emphasis on controlling our perceptions and responses, ensuring they are rational rather than reactive. Mindful listening is key to this approach. It involves giving the speaker your full attention without planning your response while they're still talking. In a heated conversation, this can be particularly challenging, but it is a skill that can transform a battlefield into a space for understanding. Instead of formulating your counter-argument while someone else is speaking, truly listen to what they're saying. Listen not just to respond, but to understand. This simple shift can prevent misunderstandings and reduce defensiveness. Active listening is a practical Stoic exercise. It involves not just hearing words, but fully engaging with them. Reflect back what you hear to ensure understanding. For example, "It sounds like you're feeling hurt because I forgot our plans. Is that right?" This mirrors the Stoic practice of reflecting on others' perspectives before reacting. It prevents misinterpretations and shows respect for the other person's feelings, creating a more collaborative rather than combative dialogue. Clarifying intentions is another exercise Stoicism recommends. When a conversation veers into conflict, take a moment to ask the other person what they really mean. "I hear you saying that you're upset because of something I did. Can you help me understand why that was hurtful to you?" This demonstrates that you're not just listening to respond, but are genuinely interested in their point of view. By clarifying intentions, you remove the ego from the conversation and focus on mutual understanding rather than winning an argument. Reflective dialogue is a third Stoic technique that involves summarizing what has been said and reflecting back on it. This can help both parties gain clarity and understanding. For instance, "So, what I hear you saying is that you feel undervalued when I don't acknowledge your contributions at work. Is that correct?" This practice not only ensures that both parties are on the same page, but also encourages honesty and openness. It acknowledges the validity of the other person's feelings and demonstrates that their perspective is important. Consider a real-life example: Alex and Maria. They'd been having recurring arguments about Alex's work commitments. Maria often felt neglected and unappreciated, which led to frequent misunderstandings. Alex, on the other hand, didn't understand why Maria was upset and felt unfairly criticized whenever she brought up the topic. Their conversations were a battlefield. Blame, defensiveness, and hurt feelings were the norm. But when Maria stumbled upon the Stoic principles of mindful listening and active listening, she proposed trying a different approach. Instead of reacting to Alex's tone, she began to listen more actively, reflecting back what she heard. "So, you're feeling unappreciated because I don't seem to make time for you. Is that right?" Alex was initially caught off guard by this new way of communicating, but soon realized how it made him rethink his responses. He began to see things from Maria's perspective, which led to more honest conversations. They started clarifying their intentions, asking each other questions like, "What do you need from me right now?" or "How can I show you that I appreciate you?" These simple questions helped them avoid the pitfalls of blame and defensiveness and opened up a more compassionate dialogue. The Stoic techniques of mindful listening, active listening, and reflective dialogue transformed their communication. Instead of fighting on a battlefield, they built a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. By applying Stoic principles, they learned to manage their egos, recognize each other's feelings, and approach disagreements with a mindset of growth and cooperation. Their story demonstrates that communication doesn't have to be a battlefield. With the right tools and mindset, it can be a pathway to deeper connection and understanding. Resentment and grudges are lingering. Holding on to past hurts can be like carrying heavy baggage in a relationship, straining the bond with each step. When we refuse to let go of past grievances, resentment festers, turning what could be minor issues into emotional walls that separate us from our loved ones. This emotional weight distorts our view of the present, turning a once loving connection into a battlefield of grudges and unresolved feelings. Resentment is often the product of unmet expectations and perceived injustices. Each time we feel wronged or overlooked, we add to the emotional load we carry. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote extensively about forgiveness and the importance of freeing the mind from the burdens of past hurts. How much time he saves who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, Marcus noted. This teaching highlights the Stoic principle of not allowing others' actions or words to define our emotional state. Instead, focus on how we respond to those actions. Forgiveness, according to the Stoics, is not about excusing harmful behavior, but about freeing ourselves from the emotional chains of resentment. Marcus Aurelius encourages us to remember that people are fallible and sometimes act from ignorance or weakness. Forgiveness is about releasing our emotional grip on past hurts, which allows us to live more freely and peacefully in the present. A key difference is between resolving an issue and dwelling on it. Resolving means addressing the problem, understanding its roots, and seeking a way forward. Dwelling, on the other hand, keeps the issue alive, replaying the pain in our minds over and over. The Stoic practice of reframing events can help us make this distinction. Instead of replaying a grievance, try to see it from a different perspective. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, Marcus Aurelius wrote. This suggests that challenges, including resentment, can be transformed into opportunities for growth. Tools like reflective journaling are invaluable for overcoming resentment. Journaling allows us to confront our emotions and question them. When something upsets us, write about it. Why did it bother you? What expectations were not met? How did you react? Reflective journaling helps separate the emotional charge from the event, allowing for a clearer perspective. It makes us realize that we have control over our reactions and can decide whether to let the past dictate our present. Reframing events involves challenging the narrative we build around our hurt. Instead of seeing an offense as a deliberate slight, consider other possible motivations or circumstances. Perhaps the person who hurt you was having a bad day, was unaware of how their actions affected you, or was acting out of their pain. This shift in perspective can diminish the power of resentment and allow us to move on. Open-hearted conversations are another practical tool. If something is bothering you, express it, but do so without blame or defensiveness. Share your feelings openly, calmly, and non-judgmentally. For example, I felt hurt when you didn't call me after our disagreement. I felt like my feelings didn't matter to you. This conversation fosters understanding and empathy, potentially resolving the issue before it becomes a source of resentment. Consider the story of Jane and Mark. They'd been married for 10 years, and over time they'd accumulated a long list of grievances. Every disagreement would trigger old resentments, leading to heated arguments and emotional distance. Jane realized she was holding on to past hurts, unable to forgive Mark for what she perceived as consistent neglect. She started practicing the Stoic art of reframing and journaling. In her journal, Jane would write about the root causes of her hurt feelings, explore her expectations, and how they shaped her reactions. She began to understand that much of her resentment stemmed from unvoiced needs and assumptions about Mark's feelings and priorities. When Jane finally opened up to Mark, she did so without blame. She simply shared her feelings. I realize I've been holding on to past hurts. I want to understand better where these feelings are coming from and how we can address them. Mark was initially taken aback but appreciated her honesty. This open-hearted conversation led to a breakthrough. They both realized that many of their conflicts were due to misunderstandings and unmet expectations. Jane and Mark began practicing forgiveness daily, both toward each other and themselves. They reframed past events and chose to focus on positive aspects of their relationship, making an active choice to let go of old hurts. Their story illustrates the transformative power of Stoicism. By releasing the grip of resentment and practicing forgiveness, they rebuilt a foundation of trust and emotional intimacy. Jane and Mark's relationship grew stronger, proving that holding on to past hurts only drags us backward, while letting go can lead to freedom and a deeper connection. Overcoming resentment requires conscious effort and a shift in perspective, but the Stoic tools of reflective journaling, reframing, and open-hearted conversations can pave the way. These practices free us from the past's grip, allowing us to live more fully and embrace the potential for love and understanding in the present. Shared goals and values are misaligned. In any partnership, having aligned priorities and shared purpose is crucial. It's what transforms a couple from being two individuals coexisting into a team working towards a common future. When our goals and values don't align with our partners, it can lead to confusion, frustration, and ultimately, a sense of disconnect. In Stoicism, the concept of shared virtues and mutual understanding is key to creating harmony in relationships. Epictetus once said, "Only the educated are free." This education, according to Stoicism, is about understanding what truly matters and aligning one's life with these values. The Stoic approach emphasizes that true freedom comes from understanding and living according to our virtues, those qualities that lead to a flourishing life. In relationships, shared virtues mean that both partners have a common ground in terms of what they value most, whether it's kindness, honesty, respect, or a shared vision for the future. When we lose sight of these shared values, it becomes easy for each person to feel isolated in their goals and desires. To reassess goals and values with a partner, it's helpful to begin by having a deep and honest conversation. This isn't just a one-off talk, but a process of ongoing dialogue. Here are some exercises to guide this process. Reflect individually. First, each partner should spend some time alone journaling about their personal goals and values. What do they want out of life, and how do they envision their future? This reflective practice can help clarify what's truly important and where there might be discrepancies between personal and shared goals. Discuss your findings. Once both partners have completed their reflections, they can come together to share what they've written. This exercise isn't about agreeing with each other's goals, but understanding them. It's crucial to listen without judgment, allowing each person to express their dreams and values openly. Identify shared priorities. From the discussion, identify common ground. What values and goals are consistent between you? What is it that both of you want to achieve together? This is the foundation for creating a shared vision. Create a Stoic relationship roadmap. Once you've identified shared goals and values, outline a plan for the future. A Stoic relationship roadmap involves setting small, actionable steps that align with these shared priorities. For example, if a couple values travel and exploration, they might plan trips together, set aside savings specifically for travel, and discuss how these experiences contribute to their overall happiness and growth as a couple. Set realistic and flexible goals. Recognize that priorities and values can shift over time. Regular check-ins are essential to ensure both partners are still aligned with the shared vision. This is not about rigid rules, but creating a flexible structure where both can adapt to changes while maintaining a shared purpose. One real-life example can be seen in the relationship of Maria and David. They had been together for 7 years, but they found themselves growing apart. Maria was focused on career advancement and travel, while David's priorities were centered around family and home stability. Each felt the other wasn't supportive of their goals, which led to resentment and misunderstanding. To address this, Maria and David began by individually reflecting on their values and what they truly wanted from life. Maria focused on her aspirations in her career and travel, realizing that these dreams were non-negotiable for her. Meanwhile, David explored what family meant to him and how his childhood experiences shaped his desire for a stable home environment. When they came together to share their reflections, it was clear that while their individual goals differed, their values of growth, adventure, and stability were consistent. They identified that their shared vision was to build a life together that allowed them to grow individually while supporting each other's unique aspirations. With this shared vision in mind, they created a Stoic relationship roadmap. They set aside regular vision meetings to reassess their goals, plan trips, and discuss how they could better support each other's personal and professional growth. This practice helped them maintain a clear direction for their future together, preventing minor disagreements from derailing their relationship. By practicing reflective exercises, open communication, and creating a shared roadmap, Maria and David were able to realign their priorities and values. Their relationship became stronger as they recognized that true partnership is about mutual respect, understanding, and shared purpose. The Stoic approach provided the tools to turn misalignment into a shared journey of growth and fulfillment. In conclusion, a relationship built on shared goals and values isn't just about compromise. It's about finding common ground, creating a mutual vision, and setting a path forward together. By incorporating Stoic principles of reflection, dialogue, and adaptability, couples can ensure their partnership is one of growth, understanding, and lasting harmony. You've lost sight of gratitude. Gratitude is the cornerstone of a healthy relationship. When we take our partner for granted, emotional intimacy erodes, leaving a gap between what was once a close connection. This sense of entitlement or forgetfulness about our partner's value can quietly erode the foundation of a relationship. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, understood the power of gratitude. He wrote, "We are more concerned about making a living than making a life." This wisdom reminds us to appreciate what we have rather than focusing solely on what's lacking. Practicing gratitude is about acknowledging the goodness in our lives and recognizing the people who contribute to our well-being. In relationships, this means being aware of and expressing appreciation for the small things our partner does. When we take the little things for granted, we lose sight of the value they bring to our lives. Small acts of acknowledgement, kindness, and appreciation are simple yet powerful ways to foster a sense of gratitude in a relationship. These acts don't have to be grand gestures. Often, it's the small, everyday things that make the biggest difference. A simple thank you for a partner's support, a note of appreciation left on a mirror, or a spontaneous hug can all serve as reminders of the love and care you share. For example, consider how often you express gratitude for what your partner does for you. Do you thank them for making coffee in the morning, for listening to you after a tough day, or for their patience with household chores? These small acts of acknowledgement go a long way in fostering a sense of appreciation and emotional intimacy. To cultivate a habit of gratitude, journaling can be a powerful tool. Here are some journaling prompts inspired by Stoic wisdom that can help you practice gratitude. Reflect daily. At the end of each day, write about 3 things you are grateful for in your partner. These can be as simple as a kind gesture, a shared laugh, or their unwavering support. This practice helps you focus on the positives in your relationship rather than the negatives. Gratitude for the little things. Reflect on the small things your partner does that you might take for granted. Write about how these actions contribute to your happiness and well-being. For example, I'm grateful that partner's name always makes time for me, even when their schedule is hectic. Expressing appreciation. Take a moment to express your gratitude directly to your partner. Write a letter or note to them about what you appreciate and why it matters to you. For instance, "I appreciate how you always listen to me without judgment and make me feel heard." Future appreciation. Think about how you can show gratitude in the future. What small acts of kindness can you start doing to show your appreciation? How can you make these a habit in your relationship? Seneca's teachings remind us that we often overlook the gifts in our lives. By making a conscious effort to express gratitude, we not only nurture our relationship, but also cultivate a more positive and fulfilling life. Gratitude is about focusing on what we have, not what we lack. When we remember to appreciate our partner, no matter how small their actions may seem, we strengthen the emotional bonds that hold our relationship together. In conclusion, gratitude is a daily practice that requires intention and mindfulness. By acknowledging our partner's contributions and expressing appreciation, we foster deeper emotional intimacy and strengthen the foundation of our relationship. Whether through small acts of kindness or dedicated journaling, gratitude can transform a relationship from one of complacency to one of mutual respect, love, and fulfillment. Reflecting on the 5 signs we've explored: emotional outbursts, destructive communication, lingering resentment, misaligned goals, and a loss of sight of gratitude, we've seen how they can erode the bond between partners. Stoicism offers profound clarity and actionable solutions, providing a pathway to transforming these challenges. By embracing the principles of emotional regulation, mindful communication, forgiveness, and shared virtues, we can turn our misunderstandings into opportunities for growth and connection. Adopting a Stoic mindset means taking responsibility for our actions and emotions, fostering personal growth, and enabling renewal in our relationships. Through conscious effort and reflection, we can rebuild and strengthen the foundations of love and trust. Stoicism teaches us that true resilience comes from within, finding peace and fulfillment in the present, despite past hurts and challenges. It's never too late to begin a Stoic reboot. Start today by applying these principles in your life. Set aside time each day for reflection, practice mindfulness, and cultivate gratitude. Embrace Stoicism not just as a philosophy, but as a tool for a more fulfilling, connected, and meaningful relationship. Take that first step today. Renewal is possible.